Welcome to Ofofo Studio. I have with me today Abilash Soundararajan, CEO at PrivaSapien, a privacy deep tech company. Abilash, it's a pleasure to have you with us over here at Ofofo Studio today. So let me begin by asking you, what kind of problems does PrivaSapien solve?
Hey, thank you so much for having me here. We are PrivaSapien. We are a privacy engineering company, which means that we are all aware about security technologies, but privacy is very different. With privacy regulations coming across the globe, organizations have to privacy preserve data before they touch data.
Mhm.
If they want to process data beyond consent, um, they should ensure that the data will not result in privacy violation of people.
Mhm.
If they do cross-border transfer of data or analyze data or take automated decision making with data, it becomes very critical that the data will not leak sensitive information about individuals
Right.
whomever they are sharing with. And it's a very foundational problem.
Mhm.
And you require a different suite of technologies to actually solve these problems, which are called privacy engineering or privacy enhancing technologies. And that's what we are building for enterprises so that they can unlock the data for value creation without violating people's privacy.
Got it. Makes sense. So which industries do you get most of your requests from? Which industries face the problems that you are out there to solve?
Yeah, it's a good question. We typically look at it this way that we put a 2 by 2 typical management kind of 2 by 2 matrix
Mhm.
where x-axis is the sensitivity of data
Mhm.
and y-axis is the volume of data.
Okay.
And whoever is on the top right quadrant
Mhm.
are the ones who require significant level of privacy enhancing technologies. So if you look at sensitive data, it's healthcare, finance, um, then probably e-commerce, automobile, surprisingly to a great extent, and whoever is engaging in a lot of cross-border transfer of data.
Got it.
So these are businesses who need this because these are the ones who may get penalized extensively if they don't follow the regulatory requirements.
Mhm.
Um, for example, let's say a GCC working out of multiple countries and they have to meet the regulatory sudden cross-border transfer regulatory requirements, their whole business model is under threat
Mhm.
because let us say a GCC company has significant presence of people who analyze data in India and they suddenly can't even transfer data from Europe to India.
Mhm.
They how do they continue the existing business model? It becomes a big challenge.
Right.
So these are kind of companies. So the whole business model is undergoing a disruption as we speak with the privacy regulations and cross-border transfer of data restrictions coming up. So that's where people who are on the top right, as I mentioned, who are transferring large volume of data and the data is also sensitive in nature, are the primary ones who are getting in touch with us.
Got it. Got it. All right. So, I mean, Ofofo is a cybersecurity marketplace, right? And so, whenever cybersecurity and privacy are discussed, the lines tend to be kind of blurred. So,
Yeah,
what do you think are some key differences for a layperson to understand? Like, what are the differences between the 2?
absolutely. A very, very important question.
Mm-hmm.
And we have spoken to a lot of CISOs as well. But as you said, right, this is a very gray area. And we are working on building awareness about privacy. And one of the primary differences is like, it's our responsibility to ensure that you can explain it to a 5-year-old girl
Right.
or a grandma.
Yeah.
Right? That's the basic test,
Yeah.
right? So if you are giving somebody, let's say I have your daughter's photo,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I put the photo inside an envelope
Mm-hmm.
and say that only the right person can open the envelope and look at the picture, that is security. Basically, your authentication, authorization, access control,
Mm-hmm.
um, right? All these are part of the security component, right? CA triad, confidentiality, integrity, availability.
Yeah.
All these are part of security.
Mm-hmm.
But privacy is what happens after somebody opens the envelope and looks at the picture.
Yes.
Once you have access to data, what are the things that you can do and you should not be able to do?
Right.
But security does not go at the DNA level of the data. It gets encrypted, and after it gets decrypted, you can use the data for whatever purpose you want. Security does not have any control on it. It's
Yeah.
like a outer security layer preventing from unauthorized parties or external entities. But privacy is more about an authorized entity who's supposed to use it for one purpose, using it for purpose beyond consent, is where privacy challenges typically come in. For example, let's say social media platform is primarily using your data to send information or create a better network, but somebody is using that to runs political campaigns for which you have not consented. For example, the case of Cambridge Analytica, right, which is a fundamental problem. So let's say somebody is giving a picture for designing an attire, but the picture of the model is abused for something else for which the model does not consent. How do you actually solve it at a data side of things? For example, somebody hospital is collecting COVID patient data, but the patients have not consented for that data being used for let's say market research or supply chain management. Rather, they want that to be only for them being treated, not for anything else. How do you ensure that it doesn't happen? It's a very difficult problem which have to be solved at the data's DNA level, rather than encrypting the data outside with the encryption, decryption, access control, things like those. So the foundational problem is, how do you ensure that the data cannot be used beyond that purpose or only for that purpose? And there is a spectrum of technologies which are basically coming for this. These are called as privacy enhancing technologies. This can be either the output privacy or input privacy. This is a spectrum of technologies. So output privacy can be like anonymization, differential privacy, and things like those. And input privacy can be your zero knowledge proof or multi-party compute or homomorphic encryption and things like those. So this is the spectrum of privacy enhancing technologies, and these are very different from security technologies. And all your regulatory obligations, whether it be GDPR or CPRA or India's DPDP, whatever is coming across the globe, that is as a data collector or data fiduciary, um, the responsibility is to ensure that the data is not abused and it's not used beyond consent, and that's where you require these technologies.
So you touched upon the fact that there is a general lack of awareness when it comes to privacy in the general populace, right? So what do you think can be done to increase awareness among people, among the masses?
Okay, that's a very interesting and very important question. We are also trying to solve that problem. For example, one problem, in fact, there is natural awareness which is getting created in the ecosystem. Just look at the products. Privacy is becoming one of the most sought upon attributes of any company. Digital trust is naturally becoming the premium value proposition of any product. Look at Apple. Apple is solving it for us. In a sense, like if you look at any Apple ad, just go to the airport, all the ads that they speak about is like privacy, right? Because if you look at it, Apple, let's say they are launching any product, right? Even before the date of launch, a Chinese company can put a spec which is better than that and with the exact same design. So what can be their value proposition? It has to be a software aspect. And what they say is that we take care of your privacy. For example, your location data will not be shared. Any application requesting access for your location data or your cookie information has to you have a granular control on who will have access to what. And they will basically filter it out before it goes to application. So because of that, after this was launched, Facebook valuation went down significantly. Right?
I remember,
after the location tracking feature especially, right? So these are very, very critical. This is happening on one side, right? On the other side, if you look at regulations, Google was penalized $400 million in US for using location information without consent. Meta was penalized the largest penalty like just a month back, which is $1.3 billion in Europe for privacy violations in Europe. Now every country is coming up with their own regulations, right? Let's say every country puts like 4% penalty, right? Even if the G20, all of them put 4%, it's like 80% of the company's global annual revenue. Basically, the company would be shut, right? So that's the volume we are speaking about. So naturally, there is an awareness at the corporate level, and it's a board obligation. Earlier, India was saying that this is a criminal violation if there is a violation. Basically, DPO would go to jail. So people were having DPO just to go to jail.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they will get a very high paid lawyer
Yeah.
whose stakes would be very high.
Yeah.
You should be ready to go to jail anytime. That's how it was.
Mhm.
But now they have removed the penal clause,
Okay.
because of which there is a bit more, the ecosystem is a bit more okay. So now the challenge is businesses are aware, but but there are first movers who are actually entering this space, who want to do it the right way,
Yeah.
who want to do privacy by design in the data ecosystem. And any technology adoption is going to be the same, right? There will be a technology adoption life cycle where there will be innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards.
Yeah.
Um, so the same is going to be with privacy by design as well, because the privacy 2.0 or the traditional privacy is about a checklist. Okay, you have this, yes. It's more of a checklist, right? You want to do it, and then, but that does not fly with the masses, especially if you want to build a premium product.
Right.
Especially, for example, automobile. At
Mm.
least phones you buy for 20,000, you feel it's violating your privacy, you give it and then buy a new phone. It's fine.
Yeah.
For example, think of buying a car, or think of buying an apartment, and you get to know that the apartment or car is spying on you.
Yeah.
Right? You can't even sell it. Like,
Yeah.
the moment you buy a car, the valuation goes down by 50%. Right? So these products, especially if it's a luxury product, then homes are becoming like completely automated. And there are things like your smart assistants who are spying on you all the time or hearing you all the time. So they are supposed to give you privacy, else you will not even touch it. So this awareness is coming naturally from the product perspective, and naturally come from digitally aware people perspective. Of course, Indian market is not as mature as a Western market in terms of privacy, but Indian market as well, there is a significant awareness about privacy which is coming among people, and we are also trying to do our best in terms of communicating this to the masses or through social media or talks or events or things like those. So, but lot to be done.
All right. What do you think folks in cybersecurity can do to be champions for privacy?
Yeah, it's a very these are like very closely interconnected areas.
Right.
Because data protection as such has to go, which is like cybersecurity and privacy are like conjoined twins.
Right.
In the data protection larger gamut of ecosystems. So privacy professionals are the closest. For example, CISO is the closest to become a DPO.
Right.
In a lot of organizations who are looking at privacy from a security standpoint, CISOs are the closest. So today, DPO is a mandatory obligation in as per regulation, whether GDPR or India's DPDP. This is unlike cybersecurity, where you don't have a mandate that you need to have a CISO.
Right.
Here, there is a mandate by regulation that you need to have a DPO. And this DPO has to report to the highest possible level in an organization.
Okay.
So basically, DPO is a very senior person who reports to the CEO or to the board.
Okay.
And he is not obligated to anybody within the org, but he is obligated to the citizens or the data subjects whose data the organization is collecting.
Got it.
That's his like hierarchy, reporting hierarchy, right? So he is reporting to a DPA, Data Protection Authority.
Okay.
In the ecosystem. So government will set up a data protection authority. Same with Europe as well. And then the DPO of an organization has to directly report to the DPA. So when a data subject who is a customer says that, hey, where are you storing my data? What is the purpose for which you are using my data? How are you analyzing my data? Can you move my data to some other database or to a different vendor? And can you delete my data? These rights are called data subject rights. Okay. And all users have it. And their organizations need to set up a grievance board who will basically receive these data subject requests from the citizens or the users, and the DPO has to act on it. This is more like an RTI for businesses.
Got it.
And they have to report back response within specific period of time. And if there is a data breach as well, it has to be notified and it has to go public. Okay. Like it has to go to the DPA, and DPA feels that there is enough information for it to go public so that people can be aware that such a breach happened. Then it can go to media, and that can significantly bring down the reputation of an organization. Okay. And this can be seen as an impact because of a CISO not actually taking care, or a DPO not taking care of data flows which are happening in the organization. So this becomes very foundational, and this can be a natural growth path for a CISO as well, or a security professional as well, where he can directly start reporting to the board. This can be an actual growth path. And privacy is much more connected to the customer, rather than, earlier CISO might not face a customer as such. Right. He faces the board, gives an update, puts a dashboard, fine. Right. But now with the DPO role, this is a flavor of security where you are directly responsible to the users, face to face. Right. And then you are also responsible to the government entity which is going to, and then the penalty is huge. Like this is like 4% in India, though. For every instance, one instance of data breach, the penalty can go up to 500 crores.
Wow.
One instance. And if there are multiple instances, I don't know. We don't have a precedence. But yeah, what the regulation today says is like, for every instance of data breach, the penalty can go up to 500 crores for an organization, which is very, very significant. So, so hence, the bar is already set. The requirement is already set. Now, the people who wake up earlier to this, or organizations who wake up earlier to this, it's like, the first mover advantage, right? You will have a significant advantage. You will become an industry leader, both an organization level and at an individual level as well, because there is a lot to gain, lot to grow. There is an accelerated growth opportunity within an enterprise at this point. So these are the benefits that individuals have and organizations have in the ecosystem, and that's what we are trying to also communicate.
Makes sense. What are some specific things that cybersecurity professionals can do in order to, create more awareness about privacy and create, solve these problems, that help you solve the problems that you are facing?
Yeah. So as a cybersecurity professional, a lot of CISOs, DPO responsibilities are being rolled inside the CISO in an organization.
Right.
And CISOs have to first start with the regulation. Understand what are the regulatory obligations which come along with data protection as a requirement. For example, CISO may be today doing CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability of data of applications to users. Now they have to take care of data subject rights, which is right to information, right to access, right to modification, right to forgetfulness of data, right to data portability. They have to ensure that the applications and data flows are in line with these additional new requirements as well. And for this, considering that this is very technical in nature, this can have a very similar parallel to security in terms of what kinds of flows can be allowed in a data ecosystem. Like in security, you have firewalls, and then you have minimal security requirements for application to flow, or a API to be open to an individual in a zero trust architecture. In the privacy space, what can be the risk score for which data can be allowed to flow to downstream parties, whether it is internal or external in a data ecosystem? What kind of risks are acceptable? What kind of risks are not acceptable? And then there is also a need for doing something like good data protection impact assessment. And these are much easier for a CISO to understand, because he has been doing this risk analysis from a slightly different angle, but this is from a privacy angle. But the constructs and the frameworks and the regulatory requirements are very similar. So for a CISO, typically he has to understand this, put this new lens from a privacy perspective, which is very adjoining to security. But this is a regulatory obligation, not just a industry specific regulation. For example, RBI may have specific requirements for a CISO, but this is a nationwide obligation which comes from a data protection bill. So this is much more horizontal. So the CISO can learn from across industry or across globe and build those practices within the organization. So this is a bit broader, but the frameworks that he may got accustomed to can be very similar in the privacy space. For example, ISO 27001 is for security. For privacy, it is 27701.
Okay.
So these would be like a lot of systems, process, and frameworks would be very close to this.
All right. Let's switch gears and talk about some of the patents that you guys hold.
Okay.
So what does PrivaSapien? What's PrivaSapien's intellectual property?
Okay. So this is like a gold mine, right? Privacy engineering is like a gold mine, and a lot of things that you do are very very novel and unique, given that's a completely new area. So what we do is like cybersecurity, right? Connecting back to previous question as well. You have VAPT in
Right.
cybersecurity, right?
Right.
What is a VAPT equivalent in the privacy world? Right, so that's something that we do called as privacy X-ray,
Okay.
where we do privacy threat modeling and privacy attack simulation on data, which helps in accelerated data protection impact assessment. Because
Really?
as a DPO, he has to take a call whether he can allow a specific data flow to happen or not. Let's say a CRM data is being requested by a marketing team, and this data may or may not have PA information, quasi identifier, statistical data. It may or may not result in re-identification of people. It may not have consent. So should he even allow this flow to happen to the marketing team or not is a big question.
Right.
So how does he even understand? Because these things cannot be done manually, because there may be like 300 columns and sensitive information may be hidden in multiple rows.
Right.
So it is very difficult for a person to just manually look at it and take a decision. But that's how the industry is making decisions today. Unfortunately, we are in the stone age of privacy.
Yeah.
So we have built this tool, Privacy X-ray, which helps in automated privacy attack simulation, privacy threat modeling. Based on that, it gives a single privacy risk score, and then based on this risk score, you can define policy saying if the risk score is between 0 to 100. So if the score is between 80 to 100, you can define a set of policies. 50 to 80, you can set different set of policies, and 0 to 20, you can set different set of policies where it can be much more lenient because the risk is much lesser. 80 to 100, the risk is very high, so you can say that the data cannot even flow outside the ecosystem. Things like those. So this is one of the patents. We have filed around 16 patents till now.
Wow.
And this is one of them. One is like there is differentially private generalization, where how do you do anonymization in a way you cannot re-identify an individual using some recent technologies like differential privacy. And we just launched a product called PrivaGPT, which is AI governance for large language models. Okay. Which is one of the hottest topics on the planet.
Right.
So how do you ensure that you have control over large language models which are being used by your employees in the organization, where somebody may be putting, hey, help me write an email on a $5 million deal that we are working with this account, which may be completely under NDA, but this information may go public and you don't know what is memorized by the model downstream.
Yeah.
So we help identify the risks as it flows in real time. Different kinds of risk, like it can be personal, financial, health, confidential. Different spectrum of risks we identify and then annotate, summarize, domain level summarization, and then we create a synthetic prompt so that this information is changed, where the context is retained but the information is changed, so that even if this information goes out, nobody would be able to connect back that this company has actually told something about this. And then a CISO or a DPO can have a holistic dashboard where they can see what risks have flown and what are the mitigations which are done and what is the overall summary by risk category. For example, what are the health related risks which emerged which are mitigated later, a summary of that. Things like those. So that a DPO or a CISO can see and then report to the board, okay, and this is how we have mitigated the risk as well. So these are some of the high level patents that we have filed recently.
This is amazing stuff, Abilash. How does one get in touch with PrivaSapien? How do people reach out to you?
Yeah, you can get in touch with us on either on LinkedIn, or you can contact us at contact@privasapien.com. And social media, LinkedIn, I would say, is the primary way.
Okay. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for this, Abilash.
Thank you for